Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. DrYuriusPapers here, coming at you with another commentary on Marvel Contest of Champions. And today we're going to talk about Season 14 of Battlegrounds. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Ooh, I almost forgot what I was going to say. Okay, what are the best champs to use for this meta node that we have for Battlegrounds? Well, let's look at the node itself. Here it is. This just started today at 1300 Eastern Standard Time. It's going for 27 days and 22 hours and 24 minutes. So we got a little while. Here they are. So first off, let's look at the opponent active buffs, because that's the first thing we got to look at. So attacker gains no power from landing or receiving attacks. That's me. Instead, they are granted 12% of a bar of power per second while the defender is suffering from a damaging debuff. Or, I'm sorry, a damaging effect. So we have to say effect, not debuff, because there's a big difference between effect and debuff. When they say effect, that means any debuff or any passive effect that will do damage over time. It's any damage over time. Shocks, incinerates, bleach, poisons, ruptures, degens, death spores, whatever. They just have to have an effect that does damage over time. So that's polka dot power. So you're not gaining any power whatsoever at all unless you've got a damaging effect on the opponent, on the defender. Second, the attacker's basic attacks deal no damage but still generate power, and their special attacks deal 400% more damage. So, again, you're not getting any power unless you have a damaging effect on the opponent, and the attacker will not be able to use a special attack because they won't have any power. They won't be able to do any damage unless they use a special attack. So, this is going to force us. Now, you're still going to be able to get some power. They still generate power, and the polka dot power meta does not stop somebody from gaining power in different ways, like Cosmic Ghost Rider's ability to get a power gain or Hyperion's power gain. Those are still active on this. But you're not going to be able to do any damage until you hit them with a special. Now, your damage over time effect still will do damage. It's just basic attacks. Lights, mediums, heavies will do no damage. Specials, damage over time. Those will do damage. That's it. So we've got to get champs that do damage over time and are going to have really, really good special attacks. Now, the buff that we're getting is Red Scare. So that's for the attacker. So whenever an offensive damage over time champion, we're going to look at that in Aunt May, inflicts a damaging effect with a duration, that also can be called a damage over time effect, they gain a 15% vicious passive for 20 seconds. Max stacks 5. This vicious also benefits damaging passives and bursting effects. So we want to look at offensive damage over time champions that do damaging effects over time. Okay? Let's look at that. And then let's go through the rest of it. Okay, so here's Aunt May. Aunt May was refreshed on December 5th, so pretty much everybody is in here. Let's just make sure Onslaught's in here. Okay, so if Onslaught's in here, everybody's in here. Okay, so let's undo that filter. So we want hashtag offensive damage over time. That's what we want to look at. So let's go to this here. So they have all of these different things. Offensive damage over time. There it is. Here is all the champs that do offensive damage over time. Let's go through these one at a time and figure out who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. Okay, so Immortal A-Bomb does damage over time with his poisons very easily. very easily. So contact with an opponent has a 15% chance to inflict them with a poison debuff for 25 seconds. That's a long, long time. Now, he is a DOT, offensive champion, so he will benefit from this. So he's probably a pretty good champ to bring in. He satisfies this, and so he'll get power. This is going to do a lot of damage because of those effects, because of the vicious passive, and then he'll be able to use his specials. Now, the only problem with him is it's poison damage, and there are a lot of champs that are immune to poison, a lot. And there are a lot of champs that are going to be able to purify poisons, but he puts a lot of poisons on. So he's going to be a good one. I don't think a lot of these purify champs are going to be able to keep up with that. All right. Agent Venom is a no-go. He does bleed with his special attacks, and because of polka dot power, you won't be able to use your special attacks until you put a damage over time effect on, so he doesn't get those until he gets a special. All right, so no go. Apocalypse does bleeds on heavies. That lasts for 7 seconds. They don't last a whole long time, but he does do that, and once he does it, he'll start gaining power. And then he will be good for that. Archangel, great. Just a warning first on Apocalypse. The warning here is it's bleed, and there's a lot of people that are immune to bleed, and it's only 2 bleeds. Both inflict bleeding damage, so can be purified pretty easily. He does bleeds and poison without having to do a special. So we're looking for champions that do this without a special that are offensive damage over time. So his heavy does bleeds. He's got a chance of doing bleeds on crit attacks, and then if he's blocking and they hit him, he can put a poison on them. So that'll let him get power so that he can do his special attacks. So, and again, neurotoxin is a damage over time effect as well, and he will benefit from the meta that is in that Red Scare meta. He will benefit from that. So he'll be doing a whole bunch of damage. So he's pretty good, except here's the only problem. If you have bleed immune champs, it's going to be a problem for him because he really can't even get started unless he can put bleeds on. So because 0% chance on contact to poison the target, reducing their health by 30% and dealing direct damage over 15 seconds. Now, this chance goes up if they're bleeding. Okay? So they have to be bleeding. All right. Baron Zemo does not do damage over time effects except if he uses a special attack. So he's got to root to do it. Now, if he purifies enough, he can root, and then he can do it. But he's going to be a good defender because of his purify ability. Okay? He's going to be a great defender in this. But I don't think he's going to be good on attack. Crit hits, 100% chance to bleed, dealing damage, and he's a damage over time, so Red Scare comes in, so he's going to be doing quite a bit. So I think that Black Panther will be pretty good as well. He used to do a lot of things, 100% chance to inflict a bleed, causing direct damage over 4 seconds. Champion attacks, some of these can bleed, but I don't think he's going to be great. So let's leave him alone. Damage over time effect for all basic attacks is a shock. Not too many shock immune champs. There are quite a few. So I think that he's going to be great. It's not going to amount to very much extra damage because of Red Scare, but all of his specials will do quite a bit. I would avoid using Drax. He does damage over time, but he does damage over time after he does a special, so I would avoid Guardian. This guy is going to be king if you are not running suicides because he does not benefit from willpower, but obviously he does a lot of damage over time. Here they all are right here. Bleeds, poisons, shocks with his basic attacks. And he is damage over time, so he gets the Red Scare. So he's going to be pretty awesome. And that can happen 5 times. Whenever they inflict it, they get it. So that's going to be 75% effectiveness. Pretty quick on him. Red Goblin I would avoid. She's not great on damage. All of her attacks have a chance to do bleed damage, but there are better champs to put in. He only does bleeds on a special attack, so Hawkeye is out. This guy is in, as always, incinerates all day long, or passive incinerates all day long if you've got his pre-fight on. So Human Torch is definitely one that's going on my team. You need to have an Awakened. So the Awakened one, start the fight with a Cold Snap debuff that deals damage over time. And then you need to be doing a lot of special ones because they put the Cold Snap back on for 14 seconds. So this lasts for 12 seconds. This lasts for 14 seconds. Every time you do, once you start this, you're going to get a Red Scare, Vicious, and then once you start doing these, you'll get that. So the Frostbite doesn't count. 70% chance to a Frostbite, and then the Frostbite passive lasts for 10 seconds and deals energy damage when it expires, but it's instant. Jabari Panther, crit hits, do bleeds. Again, watch out for the bleed immune champs. Don't bring in all bleed champs because people are going to be bringing in bleed champs, and they're going to be bringing in champs that can purify. And so she's going to be a good one, but just be aware that bleed immune isn't going to do it. Not good. Jubilee is not good. So we're going to avoid here. Kate Bishop, not good. She only does bleeds on special attacks. She only does damage over time effects on special attacks. So we're going to avoid that. Kindred. So Kindred can do some damage over time effects. So at 50 infestation charges, he starts doing degens. But this takes a little while to bump up. So that's pretty much the only time you're going to be getting this. So he may be okay, but he's not going to be fantastic. Craven, Jungle Fighter, crit hits inflict a bleed. So just keep in mind that's a bleed. So he might not be too bad. He does have, each time receives a non-damaging debuff, reduce the duration of future non-damaging debuffs, so he doesn't really get rid of those. I don't have Kushala, but I don't see any. She's got some stuff here for the special, so probably not going to go on the team. He does bleeds on special attacks, so I would avoid Magneto, but he still might be good on defense because he reduces bleed damage a lot, and I think he reduces bleed damage and he is immune. No, he reduces bleed and shock, so he can still take them, which won't be great. White Magneto, basically the same thing. He doesn't do bleeds unless he hits with a special. All right, Massacre is going to take a while because of baseball attacks. That doesn't happen, but eventually, once you hit into their block enough and you set your baseball bat on fire, you're going to put the incinerates on. So he could be pretty good. Mephisto. Mephisto has an aura of incineration. They take incinerate damage, but it's not really, I guess it's an effect. We'll have to see how it works. Mojo. These don't really happen unless the anti-life is on. And they have to nullify. So I don't think he's going to be great. Mysterio can put bleeds on, or he can put poisons on. So he's got his chemical gas, landing 1 heavy. So you just do a medium attack and then land, and it lasts for 8 seconds. So that's pretty good. It's a poison. Bleed and poison are going to be, the most immune in this game. You got to watch out for that. Nebula, she'll be able to put a shock on pretty easily. So she actually probably is going to be pretty good. Nick Fury's going to be king, but he's a bleed champ, so watch out for the bleeds. But he does them automatically on basic attacks. There they all are right there. So he'll be getting a lot of power. Omega Red, I think, is going to be great. Death Spores on opponent deal damage per second. So, and I have Suicides on, so he will start in his death field. So he'll immediately start doing damage. He'll immediately start getting power. He's going to be a good one. Omega Sentinel doesn't really put anything on until she does special attack or until she puts enough debuffs on. So it might take her a little while to ramp up. Neuroshocks. This guy's going to be king. He's going to be good on defense, attack, whatever. But Neuroshocks will be awesome for this because there are almost no one that is immune, that I know of, that's immune to Neuroshocks because it's a new thing. She does Incinerates, but she doesn't do them unless she uses her special attack. So she's still going to be good on defense, just not good on offense. We're going to skip over Punisher. We're going to skip over Purgatory. We're going to skip over Red Hulk. Eventually, Rintrah will be able to do degens. So once those pop on, he'll be gaining power. So he may be good for attack and defense. Ronin. All those 7-star Ronins out there. All the sword attacks do bleed damage. But remember, it's bleed damage. He does burst damage. When you hit inflict a degen, so he's got to have 10 prowesses, so it's going to take a little while for him. Shuri is going to be great all day long. Shocks all day long. Not very many champs are immune to shock. Squirrel Girl's got a bleed effect, so she's going to be pretty good. Ruptures on certain attacks with Tigra, so you can put those on just about any champ. If you time them right, she's going to be great. Toad is going to be awesome. All of his tongue attacks do a damage over time. Paralytic poison debuff. Here they are. And they do damage over 30 seconds. He is going to be massive. We're going to skip over Venom the Duck. Now, I don't know if this is going to count. So whenever an opponent has a debuff on them, they're going to take damage over time. So we'll have to see if Void is going to be going to count for that. Vox gets these corruptions, and he deals degens on special attacks. So he doesn't do anything until then, which is the problem. So contact with the blade of Vox's Sky increases the damage of active personal degens, but he's got to put them on. So he may not be great. We're going to skip over War Machine. Warlock has a heavy attack bleed, and then he can put shocks on with a special one. So he may be pretty good. And I don't know very much about Werewolf by Night, but medium attack 1 and light attack 4 inflict ruptures for 15 seconds. Very few rupture immune champs, so he's going to be pretty good. Of course, we always get the cantrips, and you can end with a medium, and you can stick on energy damage, so he's going to be really good, and it's a passive. And X23 bleed, we're going to skip her. So that's the damage over time champs. I wanted to highlight them. A lot of these guys are going to be going into my kit. When I have my roster done, I'm going to do another video looking at that. So let's end there, and we'll come back to part 2 of non-damage over time, because this one was offensive damage over time champs, so you can get the maximum benefit for basically attackers. We haven't talked about defense for this meta. All right. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody enjoyed, and I will catch everybody later.